Hello and welcome to Standing By, the show where we chat with the hardworking understudies, standbys, and swings, keeping Broadway's curtains up every night. I'm your host, Skye. We're here at Bartini Ultra Lounge in the heart of the Broadway district in New York City. And my guests today are Skye Alyssa Friedman and David Rossetti from the Broadway revival of Annie playing at the Palace Theater. Skye, David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Let's start with you, Skye, to talk about, tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm from Jupiter, Florida. I'm 11 years old.
And this is your Broadway debut, correct?
Yes, this is my Broadway debut.
And how do you feel about that? Is this an exciting process for you?
This is definitely a really exciting process, and it's been such an amazing experience.
Tell us how you got involved. How did you get cast in the show? You're pretty new. You just joined with the cast this summer, correct?
Yes. Well, I actually had to cancel my vacation for the audition, and typical. They kept calling me back, and 45 minutes after the last callback, they said, "We want you." And I was in the car with my friend, and we got the call, and we just looked at each other, and I screamed, "I'm going to be on Broadway," and she screamed, "You're going to be on Broadway," at the same time, so it was really cool.
And what kind of productions have you done prior to this?
I've done a couple regional productions at the Maltz Jupiter Theater. I've been in Sound of Music there, just been the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Music Man. And then I also train at their conservatory, and I have a team of people who help me.
David, tell us about yourself. Where are you from originally?
I am from Melbourne, Florida, is where I really grew up mostly, and went to school in South Georgia at Valdosta State University. Go Blazers. My professors will be very happy for that. And this is also my Broadway debut.
Awesome. And what work have you done prior to the show?
I was in the national tour of Fame, Gonna Live Forever, and Hairspray. And Hairspray was what kind of got me to the city. I spent some time in Atlanta working regionally, but Hairspray is what really kind of catapulted me to the theater that was like 5 years ago, and kind of hitting the pavement and finally kind of paid off.
So that got you to move to New York. You were working in Atlanta prior to that. Were
Yes.
you living in Atlanta? Or
I was.
Okay.
For almost 2 years, I was working at a lot of theaters there, the Alliance Theater, the Aurora Theater. I did a bunch of shows with them, and Hairspray kind of came up. I canceled a few things, much like Skye here, and flew up. Just kind of, Hairspray's a good show for me. I should go up, and three more flights after that later for all those callbacks from Atlanta. Thank God it came through, and
all the
went on tour.
airline miles that you
and all those
gained
airline
as well.
miles and money spent. Thanks, Dad. But it paid off. And
How long were you on tour with Hairspray?
I was on tour for about 10 months, just under a year. And March was kind of a good time to pop to the city, and kind of came to the city and kind of hit the ground running, and got a show at Gateway and got my equity card.
I just got that yesterday.
Yay, congratulations.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the club.
Welcome.
What role did you play in Hairspray?
I was Brad, and understudied Corny, and so I was training for my understudy, my understudy roots.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you've been with the show since it originally opened.
Since the beginning.
What was that process like, opening a show in New York and being with it from the beginning?
Unreal. For me, I mean, with all the people that were involved, James Lapine, Andy Blankenbuehler, to just start on it was incredible. I mean, the storyboards, I love all that stuff, the research, and it was so rich in the history of the show. We had the three writers are still alive for a show that's kind of been around this long, to have three of the creators that are still here. They were there a good bit, and kind of telling inside scoop of the show and how it kind of all came to be, and it was just kind of such an inspiration to start the journey for everybody, really. But I mean, I'm a musical theater geek, so I was like, tell me more.
What was it like now, having been with the show since the beginning? What was it like this summer, having a kind of a new crop come in and freshen up the show?
It was good. It really stretched our muscles to really go back to how it all began, and to go from the beginning of the numbers, especially, it was actually kind of a little bit tougher for the new, the original girls to kind of really go back when we were like teaching the stuff again and we were like cleaning a little bit. We had to really go back and think about the origins and why these kids are singing the song, Hard Knock Life, it's, Andy just took a very real approach, like what would it be like to, in 4 a.m, to like be scrubbing the floor, and he wanted that to infuse the movement. So like we really had to go back and kind of talk about like, all right, what are you angry right now or are you frustrated? Okay, what's the difference? And are you sad right now versus like pissed off? So we kind of had to go back to the beginning, and these kids can do anything. You show them something once, and they are doing it better than you can.
When you're a standby,
Yes.
you don't actually perform regularly in the show, but you cover. Which roles do you cover?
I cover Annie, Duffy, July, Pepper, and Tessie.
That's a lot. Yes. That's a lot of information for one kid to remember. How do you keep that organized?
Well, I take a lot of notes, and David here helps me with them. I do color coding. I just go over them, and if I have to go on for somebody, I go, I'm Tessie, I'm Tessie, I'm Tessie, I'm Tessie, like all day, because I have to get in my mind that I'm not somebody else. So I guess those are my tricks.
Yeah. How does that interesting? Like, what does that change the dynamic? Seeing them that they played a role for 6 months,
right,
and then move to somebody else.
Well, I mean, it challenges them to, okay, well, you're now a different character that reacts differently to all these scenarios that you've reacted one way. Now you kind of have to really step back and react how little Tyra was Kate, and now she's Tessie. How would Tessie react to that? And it was tough for them. It was tough for them. They would sometimes like say their old line and be like, there was a lot of, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm Tessie. But it was, I mean, it's fun. I mean, we were very sad to see kind of our original girls go, so it was nice to have some of them stay, but then just move up to like a different character. And then, one of our little swings, bumped up, into Molly or Kate. Kate. And Emily stayed. It was nice to have. It's not like we wiped the orphanage clean and we were, starting fresh. That would have been like devastating. So it was nice to have some people, and we welcome, some great little talents to come in.
Of course. And David, so you're off stage normally every night.
Yes.
What roles do you cover?
I cover pretty much every male role except Daddy Warbucks. So
how many is that?
That is 8.
That's a lot as well.
That is.
Two of you are quite busy.
Yes, and she's covering Annie as well. I'm covering Rooster, so we kind of got some big parts to cover besides all the tracks.
That's very cool. And what are your methods for kind of keeping all that organized?
We've been working a lot on notes. I'm a big like color coding person, so like, Jeremy Davis was like orange and Kevin Quillen was like pink, and I have like little flip books. Mm-hmm. Eventually, like I don't really need them anymore. The computer kind of is pretty good about, but I still have to go through the full show in bits and pieces before I do a role, because there's a decent amount of like one day I'm this person, one day I'm the next person. Sure. And I was just on for Rooster Sunday, and I have one more performance tonight as Rooster, which was lots of fun.
What is it like to be a part of a show that has such a history of being this huge show that's been performed for almost 40 years now, on Broadway now and then, with revivals, as well as all over the country on tour, regional. Just about everybody in the world knows Annie in some way. How is it being in a show that has such a history for you?
Well, it's pretty cool because it is a classic, and I've heard so many adults say this was their first show that they ever been, their first Broadway show they've ever gone to, and they're bringing their kids to their first Broadway show. So it's kind of cool because a lot of people have memories in Annie, and it's just such a great message in Annie, and I love the songs and the music and everything.
What about you? What's it like to be a part of a revival, especially being an original cast member of this revival when it's such a famed production? I love the show. I grew up with my sister watching the movie like over and over and over again, so it just, to me, it's a I don't want to say close to perfect. That's a very strong word, but I just think the show works, and to have it be such a classic, and to
we switch some things, but the heart of it is still there, 35, 36 years later. And to have the creators there to kind of like talk about the origins and how it all came to be. And to hear my favorite things is like seeing the moms and their kids, and they're like, I was Pepper, like when I did it, and I was July. Everyone kind of has an amazing memory of this show in whatever capacity, the movie, the new Disney movie, the newer movie, it was my first show I saw on Broadway. To hear that from people in the audience is really exciting, that we can kind of give that memory to their kids. They really enjoyed that.
How much leeway did you as a company, when this was first getting put up, have in terms of making this production your own versus sticking to some of the history of the show?
Well, I mean, after being so long, I think they let James kind of like figure out not a different way to tell the story, but just, I don't know, they just kept pushing the realism of this show takes place in the Depression. It was a really crappy time for a lot of people, so they really never wanted us to kind of forget that Annie was kind of the sunshine, cheesy word, but the sunshine to kind of in this darkness that was this show.
Bit of realism definitely shows it's a contemporary staging, but the material more or less stayed the same.
Yeah.
They didn't do a whole lot of altering.
Not really.
I don't know that necessarily needs it. It's such a solid book and score to begin with.
It really, I mean, to start the show with like such a great want song for like the whole, it just sets up everything that she really wants, and it just kind of goes from there. So.
Have you performed all of your tracks yet?
I have not performed all my tracks, but I've been on as Duffy and Tessie a couple times.
Okay, and how about you?
I have done all except FDR, and that's okay. That is okay.
You get to get pushed around in
I
a
know.
wheelchair. It's
My
easy.
blocking is set by other people, which is amazing for the second act, but I'm slightly terrified of being in that wheelchair and pretending to be FDR. But I have done all the other ones, so which is kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about it, but yeah.
And how often do each of you find yourselves going on?
Well, I've been on a lot, I guess, from the last couple days because a couple of the girls have been out. So, I mean, I've been on like 10 times.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. It usually kind of goes like in stretches. Like right now, one of our guys is getting married, so I'll be on for kind of the next 2 weeks, kind of to cover his vacation. But it would be like 3 weeks with like nothing, and then all of a sudden I would kind of get thrown on for like a day or
That's sort of what I
personal
am
day
too.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself mentally ready to be on when you can go for 3 weeks without going on? What keeps that fresh in your mind?
Well, I mean, as dance captain, I kind of am up there watching like a good, 4 or 5 times a week, like up there watching and like taking notes. And sometimes I'll just kind of like pick somebody and shadow them backstage and kind of like really kind of watch. Because I mean, you don't really get like necessarily a put in for some of this stuff, so you're trying to see it from different vantage angles so you can kind of see depth and, though like, oh, I'm between this person, but like, how close am I? And so you kind of are constantly, and I talked to her about this too, like constantly doing research, and after you do it, try to watch it again so you can really see, oh, okay, I didn't quite get there for that one, and kind of, okay, but next time I go on, I'm going to make sure I get that. And that's what's nice. She actually just had a couple performances in a row, and that's always kind of like a nice thing.
Helps you lock in.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you can kind of hit those, check boxes that you didn't get like the first time maybe. And,
Yeah. And I like to, sometimes I go out to the audience and I can watch like one specific person, see all that they do. And then also, like you said, I'll just pick a specific person and I'll do them backstage while all the rest of the girls are doing it.
Do you find that technique is what you use the most, where you focus on one person per show, or
Yeah.
do you ever watch it to kind of see the big picture?
I mean, sometimes I watch it to see the big picture, but mostly I focus on one person.
What's the most short notice you've ever had, David, for going on?
I really haven't had anything too crazy. Though in the middle of the raid going into Hooverville, one of our guys sprained his ankle. And that was, I remember this I was eating my second spoonful of yogurt and heard over the loud, the intercom, like, David Rossetti, into Ryan Van Den Boom's costumes, you are on. Please get into his mic. And, poor guy is like icing his ankle, and I'm like taking it's so weird. It's only here and with that level, and it was I hadn't done his track yet. So there was kind of an extra little zip of like, and there was like partnering in this, like the second half. So it was pretty crazy, but I don't know. I knew it well enough and actually did better than I thought I was going to do. But yeah, that was kind of the shortest notice I had. That was middle of the show.
How about you, Skye?
2 hours before.
2 hours. That's
not too bad.
That's not too bad. All right, now we've got a couple of questions from our viewers. If you have a question that you'd like to ask a future guest, please go to standingbytv.com/ask. You can submit questions to future guests. You can also tweet your questions with the hashtag AskSBTV, or check out our Facebook page and post something there. This first question comes from, it's actually two people, Mary and Stephen, both on Facebook, asked for Skye about schooling and what you do for schooling. Now, you said back in Florida you're homeschooled, so you're also doing that up here?
Yes, but actually in Florida I'm lucky enough to have a co-op that does classes, and you can sign up for them, and you have weekly assignments that you have to turn in, and tests, and students, and actual classrooms with teachers. So I've actually been Skyping into my classes from New York so I can be part of them. So when I go back home, I can still be in them. So I've been doing that along with my homeschooling.
The other part of the question is about your friends back home. So what's the way you stay in touch with them?
Well, I call them, we text. They look at Instagram because I always post photos there. Just different ways.
Our other question, and I'll put this to you, David, I think since you've been on the road, is from Ben, and this is also from Facebook. And he asks, how is the relationship with the crew different on a Broadway show than maybe on a tour? Do you socialize with the crew in the same way you do with your castmates?
Whoa.
Right? Good question.
Good question, Ben. Bravo. I mean, we're at the Palace. I mean, the guys there some of them have been there for like ages. So they're really like cool guys and very, very nice. I mean, with tour, you're just around the crew a little more, and you're like seeing them like at the hotel bar, so there might be like a little bit more camaraderie, but sometimes they're like heading to the next play. So I don't know. I would say maybe Broadway they're a little more social, and friendlier. Like we're a little closer to them because you do see them every day. It's kind of.
Yeah.
So Skye, what is your favorite moment in the show? If you had to pick one part of the show.
Well, I really love Never Fully Dressed, the end of it, because everybody's just together. It's this music. We're all doing this huge kick line, and it's just so much fun because you can actually smile on that, and it's just it's Broadway, and you realize that when you're doing that, and it's just really cool. That's mine.
Well, I would probably say the number NYC. I think just because we're in NYC, and it's very high energy. It used to scare the bejesus out of me, just because it is very active. But it's probably my favorite moment to really soak in and enjoy that we're in New York City in the Palace performing this kind of amazing number.
Your show uses Bill Berloni, Animals, provides us Andes, and
Absolutely.
Bill started his career with show Animals with the original production of Annie. So what's it been like working with him, and how much time do you guys get to actually interact with the dogs and work with them?
I mean, we don't get to see the dogs too often, but they'll come down in the green room for 10 minutes during a break of theirs, and they'll play. And I mean, they're really sweet dogs.
Yeah.
We have two, a boy and a girl.
What I love about, I mean, we get to have awesome kids and dogs, in a show. It's kind of amazing, and I really love Bill's work with. They're all rescue dogs. I mean,
Right.
Made a career out of taking these pups from these awful situations. And our sweet little Sunny was 24 hours from being euthanized, and now she's on Broadway. I mean, things are looking up. So it's nice. It's a nice addition to kind of that background story to, the story of Annie and kind of hope and, hope winning when all the odds are against you.
All right, so the show is playing through January 5th, and you're going to be in town for the holidays. What are you looking forward to spending New York and Christmas and being on Broadway?
I'm looking forward to all the fun that I think the girls and I will have. I think we'll do a lot of different trips. I'm excited for the snow because I never get that in Florida. I'm just excited.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank my guests, Skye Friedman and David Rossetti from Broadway's Annie. To learn more about the show and to get tickets, check out anniethemusical.com. And to learn more about our show, check out standingbytv.com, where you can view past episodes and see more information about our guests. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Skye Hunsader, and thanks for joining us on Standing By.